topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hey, good to have you with us. I'm Bill Martinez. Hope you're having a great day. A question abounds across America, and that is, are we losing this country? How can we recapture the American greatness that you and I grew up with? You know, exactly what is going on? Is it possible? Our next guest writes for renewal to come through peaceful pushback rather than powerful elites. He is the author of the new book, Counterpunch. It's an unlikely alliance of Americans fighting back for faith and freedom. Floyd Brown is an author, speaker, and media commentator, former CEO of the USA Radio Network. He founded the Western Journal News website, and early in his career, he worked for President Ronald Reagan and Senator Bob Dole and was the first president of Citizens United. Floyd Brown, welcome to the show. Good to have you with us, sir.
Bill, it's always great to be with you, and it's great to see you. You know,
it is.
I've been with you so many times when it wasn't on video, and
Yes.
you are one of the legendary radio hosts in America, and I've always enjoyed our conversations so much.
Well, you're very kind. Well, you know, it's been interesting, Floyd, because you and I have kind of been like passing ships. We've been oh so close, almost in the same zip code. And I know that one year in particular at NRB, I was very disappointed because you had come by the booth when I was in the middle of broadcasting and interviewing. And I was hoping you'd come back, but unfortunately we didn't get a chance. But hey, look, God knew when we needed to get together, and here it is, right?
That's absolutely right. And you are correct at the top when you were talking about the epic battle for America and for the values that define America and the values that built America. We are in an epic battle. And I think,
Exactly.
you know, most Americans feel like, hey, this country hangs by a thread. Things that would have never happened earlier in our lifetime seem to happen on a regular basis. I mean, just this week, we've had a national candidate for president, the leading Republican, indicted by the federal government. That's something you would have never heard about in the past.
Exactly.
Or you had a big, pride celebration at the White House with a man who has implanted boobs, flashing his boobs, and there standing next to him is a woman who'd had her boobs removed, and she's all hairy because she's so full of hormones. And this is being celebrated at the White House, where they're flying the pride flag higher than the American flag. So this is 1 week, Bill, and we have seen more. This is something I never thought I would see in my lifetime.
No, you're exactly right, Floyd. And I would say shamefully, the president referred to this individual who was bearing her breasts on the White House lawn as his hero.
Yeah, well, it's a man. First of all, we need to make sure everybody understands that when you have silicone implanted in a man's chest, that does not make you a woman.
Right, exactly. Well, a California teacher twice voted the best teacher of the year, who happens to be a homosexual himself, said it quite plainly, and identifying that in fact there are only two genders, and that a man cannot get pregnant. Because it's not a man, it's impossible, biologically impossible. So all these for the last 2.5 years, we were told that we were to adhere to the science, but I guess even that has been disposed of now too, Floyd, and they end up firing this guy. Of course, he's going to end up getting his job back and probably an extra bonus to boot. But meanwhile, like you said, it's so incredible and painful that our country is having to go through this. And it's bad enough that the adults, but our kids are being drugged through this too.
No, and actually the targeting of the children is what is in fact most troubling, because, I don't want to see another one of these videos online of big transvestite men, in a school.
Yes.
I mean, there's always been transvestites. I mean, I'm a
Yes.
62-year-old man. When I was a kid, there was transvestites, right?
Right.
And
Right. Exactly.
it's all, but it was in a certain section of town, and somebody went down there for a review. It wasn't at the local elementary school, because
Exactly.
we understood you don't sexualize children.
Mhm.
No sex, heterosexual sex, homosexual. You don't sexualize little kids. It's not appropriate. Kids shouldn't have sex, period. And how it ever got into the minds of people that we're going to start sexualizing, first, second, third, and fourth graders. It just it blows my mind. But I actually, Bill, am quite optimistic, because I believe these radicals have overplayed their hand, and we stand on really the cusp of what is going to be one of the greatest wave elections of our lifetime, that will restore sanity to the country, restore good governance, and restore hope to Americans. And so that's kind of the thesis of my book is how do we get there? What do we do in the next 18 months to get us to that place where America can have reformation and renewal and restoration?
Well, Floyd, I believe absolutely key to this is our re-anchoring, if I might say, to our moral commitment. This is what we've lost. We've lost our moral compass along the way. And the good news is that God has not forsaken us. God, who gave us and blessed us with this great American idea, in a sense, he's saying to us, if you can hear him, he's saying, look at Floyd, the deal, the commitment I made with Whitworth and all those pilgrims and everybody early on, I want you to know the deal is still on. That's what he's telling us, is the deal that he made with the people of faith back then is still on, and he's still for us. And we're seeing and we're enduring and dealing with this for a reason. And I believe that this will understand in time. But meanwhile, we've got to re-anchor and I keep saying, go back to first principles. Go back to those first principles that established this great nation, that emboldened the people with courage that was beyond themselves. They would tell you, George Washington would be the first to tell you that this was beyond himself, and only by the hand of God that America and this great American idea was able to come about.
Yeah, in fact, Alec de Tocqueville, the observer from France that came to America, said that the wonder of America was the goodness of its people, and the goodness of its people came from their religious fervor. I mean, the American Revolution was really a product of the first great awakening in this country.
Exactly.
And they talked of what they called the Black Robe Regiment, which was the pastors in the pulpit that were engaged and were active in the American Revolution. And what happened is, really, I point the finger at the American church, because the American church made a transition. They used to be active in the community. That's, where you went, and the Boy Scout troop was at the local church, and the leader of the Rotary Club was also, a deacon at the local church, and the mayor, he went to another local church, and it was Christians that really ran various communities. And what happened was that the church got this notion in its mind, and it really came as a result of the Johnson Amendment.
Exactly.
LBJ did not like churches getting involved in politics in Texas, and so he passed this amendment to try and get them out of politics. Rather than fight that, pastors just kind of said, well, you know what, we're okay with not being involved in the community anymore. And they really focused on building their churches. So you got all these mega churches, but they weren't involved in the community anymore.
Exactly. Floyd, we got to go to break. Let's go to break. We'll pick it up on the other side. More from Floyd Brown after this. Stay with us.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. That's 800-699-0358.
President Biden recently released a massive $6 trillion budget, the largest budget in U.S. history. And guess who pays the bill? That's right, you, the American taxpayer. American citizens and business owners will be paying more taxes. That's a fact. And if you owe back taxes, they will be coming after you to collect payments. In fact, President Biden also hired thousands more IRS agents to go after you. If you got a letter from the IRS and you know you owe back taxes or you haven't filed in years, don't put your head in the sand. Call us today. We've saved our customers millions of tax dollars. One quick, free phone call will show you how we can reduce your past tax bill and save you thousands. Guaranteed, or you pay nothing. Call now.
800-932-1597. 800-932-1597. That's 800-932-1597. Paid for by the Tax Helpline. If you're 65 or older and Medicare is your main source of insurance, pay close attention right now and listen for details on how you may save thousands of dollars on your health care costs. Did you know that Medicare can pay for things like dental visits, home delivery of drugs, even a gym membership? Call us right now and learn how to unlock all your Medicare benefits. Medicare and supplemental plans that we provide can even offer you drug coverage with zero copays and pay for transportation to your doctors. Medicare plans can offer you wonderful money-saving benefits, but you've got to call now. We'll help you get the most out of your Medicare. Make this free, no-obligation call now. Save a ton of money on your health care costs and get the code to unlock all your earned Medicare benefits. Paid for by Senior Choice Plans. 800-796-3954. 800-796-3954. That's 800-796-3954.
Hey, welcome back. Our conversation with Floyd Brown will continue in just a second. But I do want to thank you, our listeners and our viewers, for supporting our campaign for truth and liberty. Thanks to you, we are now doing this television podcast every day, Monday through Friday. It airs live at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And we welcome your tax-deductible donations. We've been partnering with Hill of Hope. It's a 501(c) nonprofit organization. So you donate to them. It comes to us. It becomes tax-deductible, win-win all the way around. Whatever you can do, whatever God places on your heart. So we've been able to do this and to grow this this nationally syndicated show with small donations from listeners just like yourself. So thank you for participating as we continue to fight for this country, because as Floyd said, the battle is raging, and it's going to be up to us, one citizen at a time, to be the difference that's needed for a time such as this. Right, Floyd?
Absolutely, Bill. You're spot on. And when we went to the break, I was just starting to tell you a little story about something that happened here in the Phoenix area. We had a little school district that was taken over by a group of LGBTQ plus activists. In fact, one of the school board members, she said, "I'm not a woman, I'm not a man." She said, "I identify as a cat." And how she could be a cat, I don't know. Yeah. But this all came very public. I actually sit on the board of Arizona Christian University, and the school district tried to terminate its contract for student teachers from Arizona Christian University because they said, "We don't want any more Christians coming in to our school district to serve as student teachers." And all of a sudden on that, the community woke up. Well, how is it that a group of LGBTQ activists were able to take over this school district here in the Phoenix area? There are no less than 4 megachurches in that school district. Wow. Any one of those churches, if they had been active in the community, if they had been engaged with the local school board and engaged in those elections, could have made sure that there were Christian people running that school board. But they chose not to be involved. They chose not to be engaged. They chose not to know what was going on in their own neighborhood. And so that's how the left gets control of these things. There's over 3,000 counties. I talk about this in the book Counterpunch. There's actually 3,100 counties in America. Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, over 3,000 of those should be run by conservatives, but they're not a lot of times because conservatives just aren't active and they just aren't engaged. If Christians show up to vote, then Christians win elections. And if conservatives show up to vote, conservatives win elections. But we just have been asleep at the wheel, especially at the local level. And one of the points I try to make is we all underestimate the power that we have right around where we live. Exactly. You need to get to know your neighbors. You need to get to know the neighbors in your community that believe like you. You need to work together to run your local community. That's what a democracy is all about. And Christians have as much right as the local, LGBTQ activists to run for office and be in these very important jobs.
You bring up a great point here, Floyd, because people say, how can such a small group of people that are represented within the greater number of people control? But I said, look, it happened in Germany. You only had 10% were Nazis. They were controlling 90% of the people because they checked out. They didn't participate. And the thing is you're exactly right. Let's go back to the mid-60s and what, President Johnson did in threatening the loss of tax exemption of the churches. And the churches tucked tail. What they did was they violated the very principle that Jesus laid out, that you render to Caesar those things that are Caesar and to God those things that are God. And look what happened. back then it put the church into motion. It neutered them, and they were again neutered. Once again came COVID. How many churches, rendered to Caesar the things that belong to God?
Yeah, no, and they just shut down, and they went away, and they went into essentially into quarantine.
Exactly.
And people weren't worshiping together. No, and it's really interesting as the church has come out of COVID. You see the churches that have really grown are the churches that didn't succumb to Caesar.
Right.
The churches that are really doing well. A lot of COVID churches have just shrunk away to nothing. Even though now they're trying to get back into their services, they can't, because their people, their most committed people, they went to church all along, and they ended up going to the churches that were still open. So
Exactly.
if a pastor had the courage to stand up for his right to worship, then and the rights of his people to worship, those churches are doing extremely well. And it's across the nation, including places like California, where you have churches like Pastor Jack Hibbs, who didn't shut down, and his church is bigger than ever. Right. And so God is blessing those that were overcomers, which is what it calls us to do in Scripture. No, I think there's been an indifference in the church. We've said, first of all, we stopped teaching about a lot of things. We stopped teaching about sin. We stopped teaching about hell. We stopped teaching about some of the doctrines which are important to a full understanding of Scripture. And so, God is amazing. He's always renewing his church, and the church is, I think, right now in a renewal, and it will lead to a reformation process. There's actually, I think, a revival going on. I've been traveling around the country to different meetings, and I was at one meeting that was you would call it a MAGA political meeting, and people were there because they support Trump and they love Trump. But we held an altar call, and we said, you know what? If you want to be the most effective advocate for MAGA, then you need to get serious about Jesus.
Amen.
And we had over 400 people come to the front, pray for salvation, and God's renewing his church with this harvest. And it's really exciting to be kind of on the front lines of that and being a part of that. God is, you know what? If the church dies, then it says in Scripture, he'll make the rocks cry out. Well,
that's right. Exactly.
What he's doing is he's raising up a new church, a vibrant church, a fully engaged church, a church that is full of the Holy Spirit. He keeps moving, even if some of these old churches end up dying.
That's right. God always knows how to work with the remnant, right? There is a remnant that's always there that has not bowed its knee. And the thing is, as you were saying about a revival breaking out, I love what Charles Finney said. He said, revival happens when it's most needed. So when you look back in the chaotic times in the history, 247 years of this great country of ours, and you see these benchmarks, you see what happened when it was absolute craziness. And then we were blessed with this revival, and what happened. And it's amazing, to your point, because we don't teach about this. We don't remember the history of it. We forget it. And then right now you got people freaking out over this. And God says, hey, look, calm down. I'm in control, right?
Yeah, and you've got the left freaking out about the growing Christian church. They try to call it Christian nationalism or whatever. I have an answer. I've been accused by a couple of different reporters of being, quote, a Christian nationalist. I said, well, that just shows that you have a lack of understanding of Christianity, because as Christians, we were the first globalists. I said, Jesus isn't just coming for America. He's coming for the globe.
Amen.
They don't know how to deal with that answer.
Yeah, exactly. We've got to go to break, and we're talking with Floyd Brown about his new book, Counterpunch, and all things cultural and political, and also, of course, some faith. thrown in for some extra bonus for you. Stay tuned. We've got more after this.
Do you have heart failure and often hear,
"Those stomach issues ruined your birthday"?
"You're too tired to play catch, Grandpa."
Sweetie, you haven't touched your tools since the carpal tunnel syndrome diagnosis.
If these seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, talk to your cardiologist and ask about transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a rare and underdiagnosed disease that gets worse over time. Learn more at connecttoyourheart.com. That's connecttoyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. That's 800-699-0358. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. That's 800-699-0358. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-823-9853. 800-823-9853. 800-823-9853. That's 800-823-9853.
Welcome back. Bill Martinez here. We're talking with Floyd Brown. Now, think about this for just a moment. Over, 65%, almost 70% of America says we're on the wrong track. I say, good observation. Okay, so what are we going to do about it? All right. If we're going to reclaim our rightful position where we, the people, are in charge, it's not them, the government. Okay, they've turned the org chart upside down so that they could be in power and control. But that's not the way it was designed. God inspired our founding fathers and gave us the Constitution in such a way to where it would be self-rule, self-responsibility, the consent of the governed. It's no longer the consent of governed with rigged campaign or rigged elections and that sort of thing. We, the people, have been taken out, and it's not working. This is what's so frustrating. And let me say this. It's not about the Republican Party. It's not about the Democratic Party. It's not about Joe Biden, even Donald Trump for that matter, ladies and gentlemen. This is about we, the people. Now, imagine this. If the church, as Floyd was suggesting, if the church got involved, the numbers of people of faith, because we have the government that we've elected, okay? If people of faith all came together, united to, affect an election, because as Barack Obama said, elections have consequences. Okay. What kind of consequence do you have? Do you want a righteous consequence, or do you want the kind of consequence that we're living with right now? I think I know your answer. Okay. So people of faith who know better need to come together and participate in voting. Floyd, these numbers that come from my good friend Craig Huey with electionforum.com says that only 50% of church members will bother to register to vote. Only 50%. Think about that. And of that 50, only 50% of that 50 will actually go out and vote. So to your point, if the church rallied around and we elected people of faith that are change agents, then we're going to get control of our country again. And as the Bible says, righteousness will reign and the people will rejoice. People aren't rejoicing so much these days, right?
Right. And if you're worried about rigged elections, the truth is elections are really run at the county level in this country. So take over your county.
Exactly.
You can control things in your county. You can run the election in your county. I mean, all of these elections are run mostly by elected officials. Well, get yourself elected to those positions. Right. And you can do it because it's not possible for them to control everything. Exactly. And they do control things often just because we don't show up. Those numbers that Craig Huey gave you are absolutely spot on. I've looked at those numbers myself. The truth is you're right. Less than half of the people at your church on this Sunday are even registered to vote. And less than half of those even go out and vote. If we could just get more people registered and then get them out to vote, then we can change what's happening in our local communities. But if we do it all at the same time, all of us in all of these churches, we can control what happens in this country. Exactly. And we can restore this country, and we can, restore some dignity to the White House, and we can, shut off these sewer pipes that they call entertainment, and we can, get back to running our schools to teach, reading, writing, arithmetic, and math, and American history, all of the things that they're neglecting so that they can teach people about transgenderism and all of this sex stuff. So, it's a big disservice what we're doing to America. And it's really important also, Bill, for people to understand that there are people that have embedded themselves in government that really have malice in their heart towards America.
Yeah.
That's clear. You've got to come to that realization. When I was young, we used to think, hey, there's Republicans, there's Democrats, but we all really loved the country. That's not the case anymore. We now have people that don't respect our Constitution. In fact, they call our Constitution a racist document, and they don't respect our Declaration of Independence. They call it a racist document. Yeah. They call our founding fathers a bunch of racists. And so they don't want America to continue. They want some new system. And frankly, I think their system is a form of globalism that's run by the World Economic Forum and the globe. Yeah. And that will benefit no one. And I go into great detail about how the wealth disparity has grown over the last 40 years. Americans are getting poorer. The middle class is downtrodden while the elites are doing extremely well. I mean, COVID policy was an excellent example. COVID policy in America minted over 40 brand new billionaires. Yeah, 40 new billionaires, while at the same time, hundreds of thousands of small businesses were absolutely crushed. And those small businesses and the people that worked for those small businesses, their families were crushed as a result of it. And because they weren't the big money of the billionaires, then, they didn't have the lobbyists to be able to stay open. So the local hardware store was closed while Home Depot was open. And
Exactly.
the local corner store was closed while Walmart was open. If you were big, and there's no truth to the fact that Walmart's safer than your local corner store. It was just a matter of the wealthy taking care of themselves through COVID, and people in the middle class couldn't.
Well, the thing that we appreciate about the truth, Floyd, is that it comes out and it is driving the left nuts because they're being exposed for the liars that they are. The people, they were told that their lying eyes were lying to them, that it really wasn't happening. But look, we knew better. And again, to get control and put we the people back on top of the org chart the way our founding fathers had designed it, which is Christian based. It's biblically based. This is the idea for self-rule and self-responsibility. Then we take over, we vote, we get the consequence, and then we hold them accountable, because as fast as we vote them in, we'll vote them out if they're not doing our bidding appropriately, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, we talk about all these false narratives. I go into detail on all the false narratives in the book. And it's important for people to understand these false narratives are intended to make you feel powerless.
Right.
And so they want you to feel like you can't have any impact. They want you to feel like your vote doesn't matter. They want you isolated. They want you depressed. They want you lonely, because if you are in that position, then you're no threat to them.
Exactly.
When you're a threat to them is when you regain your humanity and you embrace your fellow man, and you come out of your house and you meet your neighbors and you see people and you go to church and you're active. And so it's by, rebuilding ourselves in that community that we really restore the country.
Well, Floyd, I think we can learn a lot from the perils of one Donald Trump for all that he's had to endure. I mean, he, leaves his business to what? To be a servant citizen. And for that, he's being maligned. Okay, well, look at Jesus said, hey, they persecuted me. So, welcome to the cross. This is the story, of people of faith. So we understand. But
well, and his big sin was not to embrace the warfare state. For the last 30 years, what have we had? Like 10 wars. We've been, since 9/11, we've been in Afghanistan. We've been, in Iraq. We've,
Syria.
had engagements in Syria, and the entire Middle East is destabilized. And, we've also been in places like Sudan, and Somalia. I mean, Americans don't even know all the places that our people are engaged in warfare right now. And so all of these wars have been incredibly profitable for a small group of people.
Exactly.
And so, he doesn't support these wars. In fact, what's he say about the Ukraine war? I'm going to end it in one day. Well, that threatens their cash cow, their cash machine, their way of life. They got to keep fueling those private jets. And so they do a lot of that through government money and government funding. And while we have potholes all over the country and we can't maintain our own border, what are we doing? We're rebuilding the infrastructure of Iraq as we're blowing things up. It just doesn't make sense. But when you realize that for some people it makes sense because they make a lot of money off of it.
That's right.
You understand why they get engaged.
Well, it plays into the hands of the World Economic Forum, Floyd, if the truth be known. And of course, Klaus Schwab is famous for saying, by 2030, you will own nothing and you will like it. Imagine that.
Well, here in Phoenix, the big thing is now they're building houses, but they're not selling them. They're just leasing them. Whole neighborhoods.
Wow.
They're not selling them anymore. They're leasing them.
Yeah.
And it's they're killing the American dream slowly, but they're doing it because they are pocketing the money. And, we're sending it to Ukraine, but we're sending it to Ukraine so they can send it back to us to buy our bombs and our, personnel carriers and all of our, weapons,
armaments.
And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's a big laundering scheme.
Mm-hmm. Well, going back to what you touched on, and we got about a minute left here in this segment, in terms of property, how key that was for the American Revolution, for America, it was coming together. Property was key. Now, like you're saying in Arizona, and this is happening across the country, where people no longer can own property. I mean, as it is, you're beholden to the government with taxes anyway. But now you can't even own property. You can't even own your own home. You got to lease it. I mean, this is shades and memories. You may still be a little young for this. So you may not remember, but Tennessee Ernie Ford, 16 tons. What do you get, right? I mean, it was all about what was happening in the slave camps, that you owned your soul to the company store. And it's almost like deja vu all over again, as they want us to return to Tennessee Ernie Ford song days of our soul, being owned by the company store, the government.
Yeah, only this time the company's the government.
Yes, exactly. And
BlackRock. BlackRock's the one who's building all these homes and owning them.
Yeah, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, the holy trinity of the one world government. We've got to go to break. We've got more from Floyd Brown. Stay with us.
Has your heater or air conditioner busted? Appliance broken? Computer crashed? Then you need an ARW home warranty. Home system and appliance repairs and replacements can cause stress and cost you thousands of dollars per year. With an A-plus BBB rating and a top-rated home warranty company on Consumer Affairs and Trustpilot, ARW Home provides superior service, featuring the industry's lowest service call fee. ARW Home has warranty plans that cover your kitchen and laundry appliances, heating and air conditioning systems, electrical and plumbing systems, and much more. Call 800-559-7562 to customize your plan. Plus, ARW has partnered with Azurian to protect your new and used tablets, laptops, TVs, and other home tech from accidental damage and wear and tear. All plans come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 800-559-7562. That's 800-559-7562. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. 800-699-0358. That's 800-699-0358.
I am a non-attorney spokesperson representing a team of lawyers who help people that have been injured or wronged. Have you been diagnosed with cancer? Do you use pesticides in your job? Specifically Roundup. Roundup, made by Monsanto, contains a chemical called glyphosate, which has been linked to cancer. If you've used Roundup and you have cancer, you may be entitled to a cash award. Over $10 billion has been set aside to pay users of Roundup who've been diagnosed with cancer. Time is almost running out to file your claim. So if you've been diagnosed with cancer and you've used Roundup, call the legal helpline now. You could receive a free cash award and have your medical expenses covered. And time to file is almost gone, so please call right now.
800-890-7088. 800-890-7088. 800-890-7088. That's 800-890-7088.
Well, if we're going to get our country back, it is time to have one united counterpunch. We have got to push back against these ruling elites and these power hungry, self-serving elected officials and this massive bureaucracy that continues to grow in massive leaps and bounds. Floyd Brown is here. We're talking about his book, Counterpunch, talking about the culture and faith. Floyd is the author, speaker, and media commentator, former CEO of the USA Radio Network. He founded the Western Journal News website, and early in his career, he worked for President Ronald Reagan and Senator Bob Dole, and was the first president of Citizens United. Floyd, politics and faith has been your dogma, is, if I can quote Dianne Feinstein for a moment, that runs deep in you. Tell us how, and why you believe in this so much.
Well, I believe in it because it's the truth. And I mean, I fundamentally am a Christian. And to me, as a Christian, I believe the Bible's true. And one of the things I actually tell people quite often, I said, if you want to be more effective in the battle for America, tune out the news and tune into the Bible. The Bible
Amen.
gives you the discernment in order to know what's going on. But I want to get to one last thing, Bill, before we're all wrapped up, and that is what I call the unlikely alliance. And these are the groups of people that are coming together that are highly unlikely that are going to change and are changing America. First, Christians. Christians are a big part of that, but it's going to take, other people. And I would add to that what I call the mama bears. Yes. These are the moms out there that have woken up to the attempt by the left to sexualize their children. And they've said, we've had enough of it. They're done with this whole pride agenda, this whole sexualization agenda, the drag queen agenda, whatever you want to call it. And they're getting active in the schools. So that's another part of it. Let me tell you, another group is black men. Black men are one of the most, put upon groups in the country, and they want the American dream. They don't want to sit around and get handouts. They want the American dream. And so I have heard from more black men in the last couple of years who are ready and want desperately to get out of the Democrat plantation.
Exactly.
The third group are Hispanics.
Exactly.
And it's not just Cubans, it's also Mexicans that have, and Puerto Ricans, and a lot of different Hispanic groups. They came to America for the American dream. And they see that American dream, disappearing. And so many of them have been unbelievably successful. They came here and they started restaurants, and they started gardening companies, and they started retailers, and they've
worked at radio stations and the media.
But they've been successable.
Yes.
And now they see the American dream for their kids disappearing. And so they have, a lot of them have voted reflexively Democrat. And, I think of my own grandfather. My own grandfather was a product of the Dust Bowl. His family lost their farm in Oklahoma. They headed west. They were penniless. They rode the railroads out to California, and they were looking, to just survive at that point. And they felt like Franklin Roosevelt, helped them and gave them a hand up. My grandfather, his first job was with the WPA, and that was the Work Progress program that Roosevelt launched. And so he voted Democrat his entire life until Jimmy Carter. And in the first time, my grandfather voted Republican. He voted for Ronald Reagan. Well, I see that same kind of progression in the Hispanic community.
Exactly.
They came to America because they were in a desperate situation in Mexico. They needed to make a better life for their families. They came here, but as time went on, they started to see the reality of what the Democratic Party was. And so just as my grandfather left the Democrat Party in 1980, I believe millions of Hispanics are leaving the Democratic Party right now.
Exactly.
So that's my unlikely alliance. It's mama bears, it's Christians, it's Latinos or Hispanics, and it's black men. And I'll tell you what, if they join the Trump coalition, there's no stopping. Even with election fraud, they can't stop a majority like that.
Yeah, they can't print up enough ballots and fill up the ballot box enough. You're exactly right. The thing that Hispanics and blacks, minorities are realizing with all that the government has done to interfere and kind of short circuit their talents and gifts. And think about this. I was talking with Bob Whitson about this recently. You know, we spent near $30 trillion in the war on poverty. But even worse yet is how they dumbed down blacks and minorities and basically rob them of their skill set and their productivity level and what they could have done, what they could have been for their families, but for the government and the government paycheck that squashed them down, kept them on the plantation, and basically took them away from their families, promoted fatherlessness, all brought to you by one party. Like you said, it wasn't the Democratic Party of old. This is this new Democratic Party. And I remind everybody, this new Democratic Party that decided in 2000 to make sure that God was no longer mentioned in their platform. That says a lot right there. We've got about 30 seconds left, Floyd. I'm going to let you summarize and take us out.
Okay, well, this is what I'd say, Bill. I feel really good about the next 18 months. America's going to come back together. We're going to reknit ourselves together. We're going to reclaim those time-honored values of love of nation, love of country, a love of God. And God's going to hear our prayers. He's going to answer our prayers, and we're going to restore and reform America.
Amen. Floyd Brown, he's the author of the book Counterpunch. Our thanks to Floyd for coming on the show. For more information and to be a part of this mighty Martinez movement to return to God and save our country, check it out, BillMartinezShow.com. May God bless you and keep you and make his face shine upon you. Go and be blessed beyond your imagination.